Okay, so you sent us some pretty intense stuff for this deep dive, huh?
Definitely a lot to unpack.
Yeah, for sure. We've got a really powerful story on our hands this time. Oskar Schindler, right? From all these excerpts from Schindler's List.
Yeah, his story, it's complicated to say the least. Full of darkness, but also these extraordinary acts of, well, good.
It's funny. A lot of people probably know Schindler from the movie, right? But reading the book, man, there's so much more there. It's like a whole different level.
Absolutely.
So what we're going to try and do today together is kind of get to the core of what made Schindler tick, how he navigated this absolutely insane world, and what ultimately pushed him to do what he did.
Right. And for anyone listening who maybe doesn't know all the details, we need to remember this is all happening during World War II.
Yeah, prime time for bad guys, basically.
Well, yes, Nazi occupation, Krakow and the areas around there.
Right, right.
Terrible times for, especially for the Jewish population. We have to remember that.
Absolutely. So this is the world Schindler's walking into, and he's a German businessman, right?
German, yes. But not your cut and dried Nazi stereotype, not at all.
No, not even close. I mean, from what we read, he was someone who was, like, comfortable enough for a Polish chauffeur to crack a joke with him.
That really stuck out to me, too. Like, right at the beginning, you get that line, icy as a widow's heart.
Hmm.
Pretty harsh, right?
Yeah, paints a picture of a pretty cold dude.
Right. But then right after that, this idea that he's the kind of guy you could, share a laugh with, even a Polish guy,
Mm.
during Nazi occupation.
That says something about him, right?
Definitely. Like, on the surface, he's this cold businessman.
Mm.
But maybe there's more to him than meets the eye.
Totally. And the text mentions he liked large, dazzling vehicles and was something of an engineer, like he had this practical mind.
Right. He appreciated how things work.
Yeah. And let's not forget, he's German. So in occupied Poland, that gave him a certain edge.
Absolutely. A certain power dynamic there, no question.
Big time. And I thought it was really interesting what the author says about writing about, well, goodness, they say it's like a risky enterprise, like describing evil, that's almost easy. It follows a pattern, right?
Yeah, I guess there's a sort of predictable awfulness to it, unfortunately.
But good, virtue, those are harder to, really understand. And that's kind of where we're at with Schindler, right?
Yeah, he did great things, but trying to figure out where that came from, that's the challenge, isn't it?
Big time. So I guess to get into that, let's look at his time in Krakow. Those dinners with Commandant Goeth, I mean, yikes.
I know, right? Even though Schindler, he enjoyed good food and wine, he went to those things with Goethe with, like, dread, pure loathing.
The guy really rubbed him the wrong way.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a personality clash. It was deeper than that, like morally.
The text says he felt this piquant kind of disgust.
An ancient, exultant sense of abomination, like the way they showed the just show for the damned in medieval
Wait,
art.
wow, that's intense.
It really is. It's like
Yeah.
he recognized this pure evil in Goethe, and it just, like, stung him to his core.
It's a crucial point, right? It's like even early on, something in Schindler just couldn't stomach that level of evil.
I think so, yeah. And then you have his trip to Plazow, the labor camp, and man, the irony there is just brutal.
Yeah, you've got Jerusalemska Street, Jerusalem Street leading to this awful place, and then the ruined synagogue, a symbol of, well, everything they were destroying.
It's almost like walking through a graveyard of Jewish life.
Yeah.
Right. And then to top it off, the camp itself is built on a Jewish cemetery.
Seriously, it's
Yeah.
like they were determined to erase every trace.
It feels that way, yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Schindler gets there, and these guys, Ukrainian and Waffen-SS, they greet him courteously.
So he's not just some random visitor.
No, he's already got some kind of presence, some clout in this messed up system. And get this, the road in the camp, paved with Jewish gravestones.
No way.
Yeah, just unbelievable.
And then there were his visits to Goethe's villa. Dubious business, to say the least.
Yeah, the chance to maybe get some decent food from Helen Hirsch, Goethe's maid, who Pfefferberg knew, actually. But
It sounds like she was a good person, trapped in a terrible situation.
the text describes her as a generous girl. But yeah, just getting to the villa, it's like a horror movie. Dogs barking, a Great Dane, a wolfhound, creepy.
Yeah, not exactly a welcoming environment. And then you have Goethe himself. The text describes him as putting on weight since he got there. Like he was thriving on this power.
And he's such a twisted character. A sadist when drunk, but before dinner. An exemplary Viennese gentleman, like
Yeah.
some kind of monster in disguise.
Chilling. And then just casually, they're sitting there talking about the war, Crimea, just gossiping.
It's so bizarre, right? Trying to act normal in this completely abnormal world.
talk about cognitive dissonance.
And then we see a bit of Schindler's business side when he runs into Herr Bosch. Business good, I see, Bosch says. And Schindler, he's kind of vague about it.
Yeah, but Bosch knows the official bulletins announce contracts for Schindler's factory, so he's clearly doing well, at least financially.
Profiteering from the war. At this point, that seems to be his main concern, right?
I think so, yeah. He's described as a businessman, a dealer by temperament. He's playing the game, not trying to rock the boat too much.
And he even says, no regime can afford to do away with a plentiful source of free labor. He still thinks they need Jewish labor, so he's not exactly fighting for their rights.
Right. And the way he tells Helen Hirsch to keep your health, it's almost like, well, she's an asset to protect.
Exactly. He's not showing empathy yet, just a practical concern. To really understand this guy, though, we need to go back to his roots.
Just to the beginning.
The Twittau, his hometown, this small, coal-dusted city in the Sudetenland, German-speaking community, so he's very much German.
And his education, engineering, his dad owning a farm machinery plant, like it's very practical upbringing.
Very much so. And there's an interesting bit about how the view of Jewish assimilation changed. Like, at first, people thought, oh, a German language PhD will protect us. But then the realization hits, nope, nothing can protect us now.
Scary. But Schindler, as a teenager, he wasn't into all that political stuff. He was all about motorcycles.
Yeah, race, blood, and soil, that wasn't his thing. He had this red 500cc Galoni. Pretty special bike, apparently.
So he's kind of a gearhead, right? Not some ideologue.
Exactly. And then he gets involved with the Abwehr, German military intelligence.
Abwehr, yeah.
He was recruited by Gebauer, promised he wouldn't have to serve in the army if he provided them with intelligence from Poland. He had all these business contacts, see?
Smart move on their part.
Yeah, and Schindler probably thought, hey, Germany taking over Poland, that's just business, right?
So he's not exactly anti-Nazi at this point.
No, but the text says he wasn't a fan of the management. Like, he approved of the nationalistic stuff, but not the way it was being done.
Interesting.
And the Abwehr guys, they saw themselves as the good guys, the decent Christian elite, fighting against the SS and Himmler.
That might have appealed to Schindler, this idea of a good side within the Nazi regime.
Maybe. And then he starts his business in Cracow, Amalia. And right off the bat, there's some shady accounting going on. Free samples, he calls them.
Bending the rules a little, huh?
Yeah. But then he meets Itzhak Stern, and this guy is key to everything that follows. Stern knows Cracow inside and out.
He's the man with the connections.
Exactly. He finds this enamelware company, Record, that's bankrupt, tells Schindler, hey, this is your in. And then there's Abraham Bankier, Record's office manager.
Bankier is the money guy.
Yeah. But it's all very messy. The Nazis had just passed this decree. All Jewish assets go to the German administration. The owners can't touch them.
Robbery, basically.
Yeah, but some of the wealthier Jews, they had stashed money away, hard currencies, diamonds, gold, the whole 9 yards.
A smart move.
And Bankier, he knew where to find it, and Schindler probably used that to fund Amalia.
Wow, so it's all built on this stolen wealth.
It's complicated, isn't it? And then there's a story with Poldek Pfefferberg, even before the war. He's got this fake ID selling rugs on the black market, and guess what? He almost shoots Schindler.
No way.
Yeah, Emily, Schindler's wife, she bought a rug from him. No idea this almost happened.
That's wild. So Pfefferberg's a pretty resourceful guy, clearly operating outside the law.
He is, and his particularly Polish nature, as the text describes it, helped him navigate this occupied world.
And Schindler's factory, it grows super fast. 250 Polish workers by mid-1940. Then a night shift, Jewish workers, is booming.
He's exceeding his father's pre-war numbers in no time. And the factory starts to get this reputation, not huge, but it's there, as a haven for Jews.
A haven, yeah, that's going to be important. And meanwhile, the situation for Jews in Krakow, just awful. Governor General Frank issues this decree to get rid of all of them.
But at the same time, they're shipping Jews and Poles back into the area. It's like this twisted logic they have.
The text mentions this thing about the SS making Jews shovel snow. They called it a national priority with some kind of ritual significance. I mean, what?
It's completely absurd, right? But it shows how deep their anti-Semitism ran. They couldn't even see Jewish skilled labor as valuable to their economy.
Wow. And then there are the Rosner brothers, musicians. They set up a clothing business in Teinik, become kind of famous.
And then this guy, a Volksdeutscher, a German living outside Germany. He happens to be an official from Krakow, and he hears them playing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, suddenly they're on the radar.
It's like even innocent things could get you in trouble.
Definitely.
And then Stern, He's got these guys he knows, the C's, and one of them, Leon C., gets beaten by the SS.
Apparently these C's were known for being, well, not very trustworthy.
Yeah, they'd cut a deal if it meant saving their own skin.
But Stern's view of the whole thing is interesting. He's like, okay, so he slipped up, but as long as it's not a pattern, it doesn't matter. It shows how focused he was on the bigger picture, on survival.
Makes sense in a way.
It does, yeah, in this horrible situation. Then you have the Judenrat, the Jewish council in Krakow.
The council, right.
At first, people had some respect for them, but then they started letting the wealthy buy their way out of forced labor.
Leaving the poor to suffer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awful choices. But they were in a really tough spot, pressured by the Nazis.
No good options. And then Christmas 1941 rolls around. The text describes it as this wistful atmosphere, this sense of uncertainty.
Yeah, the snow in the park, it's like this big question mark hanging over everything.
And Schindler, he's giving gifts. A poodle for secretary, jewelry for Ingrid and Emily.
Trying to maintain some normalcy in this crazy world, maybe.
Maybe.
But then comes March 1941, and with it, the Cracow ghetto.
The walls go up.
Yeah, the final fixed form of the catastrophe. People were terrified of those walls, the confinement.
Of course. And Governor General Frank, he tries to spin it as reducing racial conflict.
Like it's for their own good, which is just, ridiculous.
Totally. And Schindler, he sees these Jews moving their stuff with barrows, just like when they first arrived in Krakow centuries ago.
This cyclical suffering, it's heartbreaking.
And the whole thing with the trolleys running through the ghetto, they bricked up the walls facing the trolley line so people outside wouldn't see.
They wanted to hide it, pretend it wasn't happening.
And the gate, the Hebrew inscription, Jewish town, like some sick joke.
Yeah, with the barbed wire, it's just this brutal symbol of oppression.
Life inside, we get a glimpse through Edith Liebgold, working the night shift at Schindler's factory.
The Deutsche email fabric.
Yeah, and compared to other places, Beckman's razor blade factory, it had a better reputation.
Closer to Madrich's, which was considered all right.
Relative terms, of course.
Yeah, in this awful situation.
And Pfefferberg, he's still hustling inside the ghetto, trading on the black market, even taking off his armband to go into the city.
He sees the propaganda, those terrible posters. Jews lice typhus. The Jewish caricature with the devil's shadow.
They were relentless.
And he's changing money with the Polish Blue Police, just showing how corrupt the whole system was.
Everyone trying to get theirs. And Schindler, he visits the ghetto in April 41. He sees the cramped conditions, the stench of the plumbing, the women fighting typhus.
And the OD, the Jewish police, now they've got truncheons. A sign of things changing, power shifting within the ghetto itself.
And that shift gets even worse with Simke Spira, this guy who takes over the OD. He's extorting people, making lists for the SS.
Pfefferberg wants out of the OD badly, and he eventually gets discharged with help from Dr. Biberstein.
But Spira hates him for it. You can see the personal stakes in all this, even within the ghetto.
Absolutely.
And then June 41 happens, Germany invades Russia. Huge turning point, right?
Huge. Oskar hears it on the BBC, which was illegal, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And he realizes the Madagascar plan, that crazy idea to ship all the Jews off, it's dead.
The Nazis are in for a long war now.
And the text says that's when they shifted to a more systematic pursuit of a racially impeccable empire.
In other words, things are about to get much worse. And then later that year, Schindler himself gets arrested.
Someone in his own factory ratted him out. Unbelievable.
2 Gestapo guys show up, take his business records.
We don't know exactly why, but it shows how dangerous it was to operate in that world, even for him.
Even for a connected German.
Right. And then you have the story of Mrs. Dresner and the little girl hiding in the countryside. They managed to avoid a deportation by pretending to be Polish.
Talk about a close call.
But then we find out the child's real parents were caught because of Spira, that guy from the OD.
It's like there's no escaping the long arm of the Nazis.
And then there's Oleg Rosner escaping the ghetto thanks to Richard the chef and his girlfriend.
Such a brave thing to do.
It is. And the Rosners, they're torn, but they know they have to try to save their son.
It's just heartbreaking.
It is, yeah. And then the action, the deportations, they really ramp up.
It's brutal. Schindler tries to stop it, argues with the SS, says his workers are essential for the war effort.
But they don't care. They have their lists. Families are torn apart. A young man with a Blauschein, a work permit, wants to stay with his family even though it means certain death.
Schindler sees all this, and it gets to him. He describes seeing this small red girl in the crowd, this SS guard just watching her.
It makes him sick, literally. And he realizes The only reason they let witnesses like him see this is because they figure they'll be dead soon, too.
It's chilling, isn't it? The casual way they dehumanize their victims.
Completely chilling. And then you have Tadeusz Pankiewicz, the pharmacist. He's the only Pole allowed to stay in the ghetto.
He sees everything, the dispassionate horror of the action. He's helping the wounded, people who've tried to kill themselves with cyanide.
Bertig, Neumann, both important figures in Krakow, they die during the action. So much loss, so much talent, just gone.
It's hard to even comprehend. And then little Genia, Dr. Schindler's ward, she wanders off and gets caught.
Schindler sees her in the deportation column, and you have to think that must have stayed with him.
And then Bachner, he comes back. He's escaped Belgic.
The death camp.
He tells him what happened there, the Ukrainian guards with clubs, the stench, the fake cloakroom, and valuables warehouse.
The gassing, the bodies being taken away. He only survived by hiding in a latrine pit.
My God, he comes back with silver hair, madness in his eyes.
He's a walking ghost.
And then there's Bosco, the SS officer. A really interesting character, right? German, Czech, conservative background, even excited about Hitler at first.
But then he has this change of heart. He starts sabotaging the action and helping people escape. He sees himself as a witness, like he needs to atone.
A flicker of humanity in a dark place.
Yeah. And Mrs. Dresner, she makes this heartbreaking decision to leave her hiding spot during a search, doesn't want to risk the others getting caught.
She's lost all hope, just wants it to be over.
And even in all this, there are small acts of resistance. The young Zionists bombing the SS restaurant.
Brave, but dangerous.
Yeah. And you have Samu Springman trying to get help from the Istanbul Zionists, but his postcards fail to reach them.
So they're cut off, no outside help.
But he does manage to send a reply from Budapest. Just this desperate plea for Rahami Maher, urgent help.
And then there's the connection between Dr. Sedlacek and Major von Korob. Von Korob, he has this rumor about a Jewish grandmother, and it turns out to be true.
So he confides in Sedlacek, and Sedlacek asks him about Schindler, who's on this list from Istanbul.
A list of potential rescuers.
Sounds like it, yeah. And von Korob, he gives Schindler a good recommendation. They even meet at Amelia.
So the network is starting to form.
And then, back in Berlin, you have this horrifying scene, the confiscated Jewish property.
Himmler's overseeing it all, like some kind of macabre accountant.
Jewelers are grading everything, even children's rings and gold teeth pulls from bodies. A whole warehouse full of silver, religious items, personal belongings.
It's just sickening.
It's like the ultimate violation, even in death.
And then Schindler takes this trip to Hungary. He's traveling to freight car, surrounded by Nazi propaganda, trying to keep a low profile.
Something tells me he's not just there for sightseeing.
Definitely not. And speaking of not sightseeing, the labor camps around Krakow, Walizka, Prokosim, prisoners marching to Plazo every day to build this massive camp.
Goeth, he personally inspects the construction, sees these women from Prokosim dragging hut segments, watches the watchtowers being built.
A chilling scene.
And he has this exchange with Helen Hirsch about the foundations. He's convinced the Jews are deliberately making things difficult.
Classic anti-Semitic thinking, blaming the victims.
Exactly. And then the liquidation of the Krakow ghetto, it's imminent. Schindler, he tells the remaining Jews, don't hide unless it's super safe and don't resist.
Grim advice, but probably realistic.
Stern tries to be optimistic. He says, Plazo's a labor camp, we can survive it. Beljac, that was different.
Holding on to hope where they can.
Absolutely. But then the ghetto hospital is liquidated.
This SS detachment, led by Hujar, they just storm in. Dr. Blau, she refuses to move her sick patients, scarlet fever, tuberculosis, they're too weak.
And Hujar, he just shoots her, dead.
Just like that. It's unbelievable how callous they were.
And then there's Dr. H. He's in this abandoned hospital with a bunch of cyanide.
Cyanide.
Yeah, all the other medicine's gone. He hears the Sauter commandos coming, the liquidation squads, and he's trying to get his last 4 patients ready to evacuate.
A desperate situation.
Totally. And Poldek and Mila Pfefferberg, they're hiding in the attic of their old building, waiting for the Sauter commando to come for them.
Can you imagine the terror?
It's unimaginable. Mila, she's already a refugee from Lodz. Her family, all doctors, they died in the accident.
So she's seen it all.
She has, yeah. And Poldek, he's trying to get a message to Dr. H through these holes in the walls between the buildings.
Just trying to hold on to some connection in this chaos.
And the Vulcans, they're hiding too, completely hopeless.
And then a glimmer of hope. They hear the OD is leaving the ghetto.
They think maybe, just maybe, they can sneak onto one of their vehicles.
A long shot, but they're desperate.
Absolutely. And meanwhile, Goeth, he's in charge of Plazo now, and he's a tyrant. breaking promises, interfering with work, holding these crazy long roll calls.
This guy's a nightmare.
He is, yeah. Public floggings for finding a potato, these weird games during roll call just to torture people.
He's clearly enjoying his power.
And the prisoners, they're terrified of him.
Hmm?
They tell all these stories about his brutality, and the other SS officers too.
Schindler complains to the Armaments Inspectorate about the delays, but the engineer, he's just cynical. He says the police chiefs are fighting a different war.
Like, they're not even trying to win the actual war anymore, just focused on their own little power games.
So Schindler, he comes up with this crazy idea, build his own camp right next to his factory.
That's a bold move.
It is, yeah. But it actually works out for everyone. The SS, the Armaments Inspectorate, they're all happy because it takes some pressure off them.
And Goeth, he sees it as a chance to make more money. He can reduce the food rations. And his buddy, Wilik Chilovich, he's selling the stolen rations on the black market.
So even in this horrific situation, there's still corruption.
It's everywhere. And remember, Gardy, the guard who escorted a prisoner to Amelia, Goeth was suspicious, but then he backed down.
Schindler's power is growing.
He's becoming untouchable. And Wilik Chilovich, he becomes the head of the Jewish camp police, the fireman.
Fireman, what a euphemism.
He's searching the ghetto for valuables, and nobody knows where his power comes from.
A shadowy figure.
Yeah, very much so. And then there's Regina Horowitz and her daughter Nuzia. They find a kind of anonymity in Amelia. They blend in.
A small mercy.
But then this girl, Fraulein Perlman, she goes to Schindler and begs him to get her parents out of Plaza.
She calls it a Lebenskart, a life-saving card.
And Schindler, he's cold, refuses to make special arrangements. He insists on work skills, but I think he was also being careful protecting himself.
Yeah, he couldn't just be seen helping anyone, not openly.
And Perlman's father wasn't a metal worker, so he couldn't even use that excuse.
Tough break. And then there's the crazy story with the rabbi, Menashe Livertov, and Goeth's broken pistol.
Goeth's trying to shoot him, but the gun keeps jamming, and the rabbi is just searching desperately for something to use as leverage just to survive.
Talk about tense.
And then Goeth shoots a boy for not polishing his boots properly, right during roll call.
It's just senseless violence.
And Krautwert, the engineer, he sees it and kills himself, slits his wrists.
Can you imagine the despair?
And Goeth, he doesn't even care. He orders the hanging of another prisoner to continue, even though Krautwert's dying right there.
What a monster. But Schindler, he tries to manage Goeth, get him to calm down, usually with a lot of cognac.
It's a dangerous game he's playing.
But it seems to work, at least for a while. There's a report from Sedlacek to Springman that the killings have stopped in Plasso.
A brief respite.
But it doesn't last. Goeth goes back to his old ways, and the prisoners know that nothing's really changed.
And the everyday scenes in Plasso, just passing the poof house, the brothel, the quarry where everyone's working their fingers to the bone, Dr. Goldblatt getting beaten.
It's just constant brutality.
And Schindler, he's spending like crazy, ruining himself for his prisoners.
People are starting to notice this passion he has.
He's not just a businessman anymore.
And then Dr. Sock, he offers Schindler a bribe to get this woman, Frau Helene Schindler, out of prison.
No relation to Oskar, but he still helps.
It shows how deep he's getting into this whole thing.
And then there's Raymond Titch. He manages to save the Plazo film reels.
That's incredible.
He buries them because he's afraid of Odessa, this secret society of former SS men. He's honored by Israel after the war for his courage.
It's a true hero. But the text also talks about the myth and reality of Schindler's actions.
Yeah, some of the stories might be embellished, but his core commitment to saving his prisoners, that's real.
He's like a trickster figure, using his charm, his connections, even his love of liquor to outsmart the system.
And there's this beautiful story about Joseph Bau and Rebecca Tannenbaum. They fall in love in Plazo.
In a concentration camp.
Yeah, it's amazing. Bau accidentally ended up there because of a paperwork error, and he works as a draftsman.
And they have this very proper romance amidst all the horror.
It's a testament to the human spirit.
There are other romances too, Tish and his machinist, but then there's this horrible story about Hujar being forced to shoot his own lover by Goeth.
Just shows how twisted Goeth was. And remember the Rosner brothers playing Gloomy Sunday for Goeth's guests?
That band song about suicide?
Yeah, some of these SS guys, they had this morbid fascination with death.
It's disturbing. And Schindler, he's not the only one employing Jewish labor. Krupp, I.G. Farben, Tobins, they're all using prisoners.
It's a whole system. And a personnel officer even complains about the camp size, worried about typhus spreading.
Schindler, though, he wants his workforce to be permanent. He talks about Colonel Lange like he's trying to secure their future.
He's playing the long game. And then Bao and Rebecca, they get married in the women's barracks.
A secret wedding.
Yeah, super risky. Shite almost catches them. Air raid sirens go off. Bao hides under pillows.
Talk about a close call.
And the Eltest, the head of the barracks, she's risking her life by allowing this to happen.
It's amazing what people were willing to do for love.
It is. And then April 28th, 1944, Schindler's birthday. He's not exactly celebrating, but he does notice he's gotten a little thicker around the waist.
A little birthday present from all the good food he's eating.
Yeah, a reminder of his privileged position.
And Rosner gives him this private recital in his office.
Just the two of them. Oscar's depressed about the war news, the Russians are stalled, and he's worried about Rosner being in Plazow.
So he's not just thinking about himself anymore.
No, his priorities are changing.
And then he just snaps, picks up his heavy office chair, and slams it down in front of Hitler's portrait.
It's like this outburst of anger, frustration with everything.
He even asks about the smell of burning bodies coming from outside the camp.
The reality of the situation is hitting him hard.
And then Plazow is liquidated. Bosch gives the order to shoot the gutters, those who can't work, and anyone else they don't like.
They're herded to this ditch near the women's camp and just shot.
Children are pleading for their lives. Parents are standing there accepting their fate.
They're destroying all the evidence, trying to cover up their crime.
It's horrifying. And then Goeth starts his health action, targeting children, including Oleg Rosner.
They're hiding everywhere, but the SS find a lot of them. Parents are hoping their connections with the NCOs will help, but it's not enough.
It's just heartbreaking.
The transport to Mauthausen is a nightmare. Cramped cattle cars, no food or water.
An NCO eventually orders the doors open so they can